With me now is CTV News political commentator and former director of communications for Prime Minister Paul Martin, Scott Reid. Good to see you, Scott. First, let's talk about Carney. Good morning to you. What does this new partnership with Japan mean for Canada's global strategy?
Well, on its own terms, again, it means more extensive efforts with respect to investment between both countries. But in particular, and it was touched on in that report, think about critical minerals, think about energy. Those are the cards that Canada has to play on the world stage, and those are the basis upon which we can really animate relationships and trading partnerships with countries outside of the United States, where we really have some advantage. And so whether it's the Australians, Japanese, or the Indians, we've seen that critical minerals and energy and trying to forge new partnerships on that consistently arise as priority items. And I think really in total what you're seeing is the Prime Minister is trying to play to Canada's strengths and again give us options beyond the U.S. market, which obviously is no longer reliable.
Now, Carney has been visiting other countries as well on this trip, not just Japan. Overall, do you think the deals that he has made, including in Australia and India, do you think that they will help Canada diversify trade beyond the U.S.?
It's hard to imagine that they won't. And, and a couple of things. I mean, first of all, this trip has been, to a certain degree, shadowed by the war in Iran and, reactions of world leaders to what's occurring in the Middle East. But that has served to somewhat pale the focus we've attached to these deals. But again, you look at them, particularly the arrangements, I would say, with India, which is the world's largest nation on the basis of population. And these do form the foundation, if these partnerships are acted upon, for really, really strong economic ties. And again, I think there's another dimension to all this. The Prime Minister clearly seems to be trying to patch together a set of Indo-Pacific relationships, which in turn might be able to patch together with something with the EU, so that you've got a major trading bloc, or at least major potential partnerships of which Canada would be a part, but the United States would not. A way of giving us leverage against the might of the United States, so they can't just push us around on the world stage when it comes to trade.
Now, let's talk about LeBlanc in Washington, meeting with Trump's trade czar, Jamieson Greer, for CUSMA talks. How significant is it that these talks are back on, and does Canada have any leverage?
Well, the honest answer, I think, to how significant is that we don't know. I mean, these trade discussions are such a black box between the unwillingness of, to be blunt, the unwillingness of the Prime Minister and his office to share many details, probably trying to hold their cards close to their vest so that they maintain maximum flexibility, and then also the unpredictability and the absolute, ridiculousness at times of President Trump. It's really hard to have an understanding. Obviously, it's good that they're together. Hopefully, they start to produce some sort of schedule and critical path toward renegotiation of CUSMA. Not really renegotiation, it is a review. I mean, we can make this as small as we like if the Americans would agree. We could just rubber stamp the agreement and move forward. We don't suspect that's what America wants, but there is that possibility, I suppose. But look, it's a positive step if we're moving and we're engaging, and one wonders whether politically Trump is starting to think maybe it's in his interest to work with us rather than work against us.
Interesting. Scott, thank you very much for this.
Thanks, Renee.
That is Scott Reid, CTV News political commentator and former director of communications for PM Paul Martin.